Real estate deals are a battlefield. That's right. And if you're not ready for the fight, you're going to lose money. Or worse, just the whole deal. So if you think buying and selling is as simple as agreeing on a price and signing some paperwork, think again. There's just not one negotiation. There are actually three. Buyers and sellers come with all kinds of personalities, from ruthless hagglers to emotional wrecks. And let's not even start on lenders and showings, which can turn the process into an absolute nightmare. Every mistake in real estate has a price. Overpricing your home, that'll cost you thousands. A bad lender, they can tank the whole thing. The whole thing will be 2 seconds. And if you don't know what to expect from escrow, you might think that you're closing on your dream home only to watch it slip through your fingers. So if you want to make sure you don't get blindsided, let's break it down. Wait to the end because I got the biggest truth ever, which is, it'll blow your mind. So the first thing is, a lot of people don't understand that there are 3 rounds of negotiating. Not just 1, not just 2, but 3. So if you're buying or selling a home, you might think it's simple, but agreeing on a price and just signing a contract. But we have some news here. There's just not one negotiating. There are 3. And each one can make or break. So let's talk about this. First, negotiate the offer, right? That's where you and the buyer, seller, the other party hash out the price, contingencies and closing costs, all at that time. And if both sides agree, you might, think they're all in the clear, but no, that's just the beginning, okay? So what happens next is the appraisal. That's why a good realtor would just handle all this up front so there's no problems, okay? Handle this appraisal deal up front, because if the bank appraiser decides that your home isn't worth what the buyer offered, the deal's in danger. Now you're back at negotiating the price again. So either the buyer has to come up with more cash, or the seller has to lower the price, or the deal just falls apart right there. It doesn't have to happen. That's why in the beginning, the appraisal issues should be handled. There should be an appraisal addendum where the buyer pays the gap. Go for that first. And if the buyer doesn't want to do it, have some negotiating on what price they would have. And buyer, you want that too. You don't want to lose the house. Very important. And again, handle the stuff up front. And round 3 is the inspection. Now, I do a pre-home inspection on all my listings, so I don't have this issue a lot, but 99.9% of the agents don't. So if you're a buyer and you swear at the beginning, I'm just gonna take the house as is, but then you get the inspection report, you might think, I have a list of demands here. I want this fixed, I want that fixed, I want a credit for that. And then the sellers by that point are exhausted. They either give in or just get it over with, or they put their foot down, and then you risk losing the deal on either side, or maybe you don't make a meeting of the minds, and you risk losing the deal just entirely, right? So you really only should negotiate once. At the beginning, the buyer and seller should have a meeting of the minds. A good agent will make sure that all these things are handled up front. That's why a pre-home inspection is so great, guys, because it gets that off the table, okay? It gets the home inspection contingency, and if you talk about the appraisal ahead of time, just take it off the table so you don't have to do this, okay? That was number 1. The next thing I talk about, I think, is another truth, that the type of buyers and sellers are all the same, but they're not. Some of them will make this process an absolute nightmare. I've seen it happen. But again, a good realtor will notice, a good listing agent like myself will notice a buyer that's going to give you problems. You can tell right from the beginning. They're haggling over every little single dollar, and just to make them feel like they won a deal. They really don't actually care about getting a fair price. They just want to feel like they squeeze every last cent out of you. You can feel that from the beginning. Don't work with those buyers or don't work with those sellers. And then you have like these fair dealers, buyers, sellers, who just want a smooth transaction with no games. These are the folks you hope to work with, but don't count on it. And as a seller, you might run into indecisive buyers, the ones who tour like 50 homes, make 3 different offers, and then back out of the last second because they just aren't sure. That's a tough one. That's why a good selling agent will talk to the buyer and say, listen, how many homes have you showed the buyer? How many deals have they lost? Find out more about the buyer. Okay, make sure your agent finds out more about the buyer. Okay, that's a big one, really important. And don't forget about the emotional sellers. They're the ones who think their home is worth a fortune because this is where I raised my kids, and this is where I bought this. They just have the memories caught up with themselves, and they take every offer as a personal insult. So if you go into this expecting logic and reason from everyone involved, you may be in for a rude awakening. Next, the biggest mistake I think that sellers make is overpricing. I see it in the market happening right now. Here in Philadelphia and the suburbs, prices are going up and some sellers are just up here when prices still should be down here. But I get it. You know, you want to overprice your home. You love your home. You spent years making memories there and you've put up a ton of work into it. But the buyers, they really don't care about any of that. They care about getting the best deal and walking into a home that's move-in ready. So if your home is overpriced for what it looks like and how you staged it, they're just going to pass you up for a better deal down the street, okay? So the first 2 days, 3 days, a week at the max of having your home on the market is so critical. That's when the offers come in. If it's on the market longer than 10 days, then something's wrong with it. 2 weeks maybe, then you're priced too high for how you staged the home. That's when the offers come in the first few days. And if you're priced too high, your home is just going to sit while other buyers are going over into better priced homes. They're on the computer. They see other priced homes. They have access to all the information. They know everything. And they see that your home stays on the market a long time. If it just sits and sits, they're wondering, why isn't this selling and I don't want to buy anything? What's wrong with it? I don't want to buy anything that nobody else wants, you know? Why is it that we have like these weekends on the market? I put my houses on the market and hundreds of people are there all at the same time to buy and looking at the house. That sparks competition, not when it sits on the market forever. Because then you lose your momentum. Smart move, price it below market value. I know that sounds kind of weird, but what happens is more buyers will get interested and then you'll get multiple offers, which will drive the price up. So when you price it lower, most buyers today know they have to come up in price. So what they do is they only look for homes at this level where they can afford this level. So you need to be down here to catch the fish. So if you're priced too high, the only people that helps is your competition, okay? So next, the truth about lending, because they can make or break the deal. That's why when I get offers in, I check out the lender. I find out everything I can about that lender. And they'll drag their feet. They'll ask for things the last minute and they'll create unnecessary roadblocks and they just leave everybody frustrated. Deals fall apart a lot because of slow, unorganized lenders who don't communicate properly. What happens usually is lately, in the last few years, 70% of the settlements have been extended due to lenders not on time with things. But when you have a great lender, I love a great lender. They communicate with you all the time. They're sending out emails. The buyer just gave us their paperwork. The buyer just did that. The buyer's in full underwriting. The deal's in full underwriting. The appraiser's going out. They're communicating with you every day. So instead of making it harder, they're making it better and more communicative and everyone feels more comfortable. And if you're a buyer, one piece of advice for you, don't just get pre-qualified, get pre-approved. Get everything, all your documents to the lender up front. Because sellers don't take that seriously when they get a pre-qualification. Ask for a pre-approval, especially in a competitive market. You need desktop underwriting approval. That's the deal. It shows sellers you're fully approved and ready to close, which makes your offer way stronger, okay? And if you're selling, if you get a cash offer, just take it seriously. No lender is great, but they also have to show up with settlements. We have to make sure we have that proof of funds. If you don't have a lender, you don't have to have any financing headaches. There's less delays and just a much smoother closing process. I found in the last 4 years, 5 years now, closings have just sprinkled down at 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks at the most. Now, if you want a lender who actually knows what they're doing and will fight to get your deal closed, highly I recommend Crista Lowrie from First Citizens Community Bank. She makes it easy, less stressful. She won't tell you what you want to hear. If she can't qualify for a loan, she's going to tell you can't qualify, okay? And her details are in the description box below, or you can go to mortgagewithcrista.com. Let her know I sent you, okay? Next is showings. It can be a nightmare for you sellers, I get it. You spend hours cleaning and staging and making everything look perfect, and then boom, buyers cancel at the last minute. Now, that used to happen in a buyer's market, but now in a seller's market, you can expect 20, 30, 40 showings, get out of the house, but spend the time cleaning, make everything look perfect. But, you know, don't worry about having to clean up and people not showing up. If you list it with me, for sure, and you're priced correctly, which we would be. Buyers will show up. So make sure it looks great. But if you have one of those houses that are unique, you have only a few showings, maybe it's not like a cookie cutter home, you're going to hear criticism after the showings. Like, I don't like the wall color, or the kitchen feels off, or if for 2 minutes they walk in and they walk out. That will happen. There'll be people like that. And then you have, I call them serial home tours, the ones who just looking with no intention to buy anytime soon. They smile, nod, and say, oh, we just started our search, which is the code for we're not serious. So if you're in a market where there's more sellers than buyers, then you can find yourself in a buyer's market and these things are going to happen. They could not show up, things like that. So not every buyer is ready to buy your house, what I want to say. So just have patience. Keep your expectations in check and understand that it only takes one buyer to make the chaos worth it. So the chaos is put your house on the market on a Saturday, open house on Sunday, showing and offers on a Monday. Can you be ready for that? That's what you have to be ready for. That's the market in 2025. If we're in a buyer's market, it will be a little bit different, more like what I just talked about. You have to wait for every showing, clean up and all that stuff. Next, I really want to talk about, if I have one more after this, is earnest money. It's not monopoly money. Some buyers think earnest money is just a placeholder that can go back whenever they want. But that's not how it works. When you put down this money, it goes into this escrow account with the title company. It stays there unless both the buyer and the seller agree to release it. If you want to get out of the deal, it falls through, both parties have to say, okay, let's release that money. It doesn't automatically go back to you, the buyer. Sometimes it gets tied up in disputes and legal battles. In extreme cases, it could take months to sort out. So if you're a buyer, make sure you understand what you're committing to before throwing down that deposit. And sellers, just because a buyer puts this money down doesn't mean it's yours. It's not yours, okay? Not yours. And lastly, this is the big one, saving the best for last. What the property looks like at closing matters. Sellers, listen up. Just because you sold your home as is doesn't mean you can just leave it looking like a tornado came through. This is what happened. Or leave all your stuff in the house. As is mean the buyer is accepting the home in its current condition at the time of the offer. Not that you don't get to trash the place before handing over the keys. If your home is in a noticeably worse shape at closing than the buyer made their offer, be prepared to have some problems. You can find yourself in some last-minute battle. The last thing you want when you're days away from settlement is and from finalizing this deal. And I know it only has to be prune swept clean, guys, but please do a little better than that. And for your love of everything, please clean up your house before you leave. It doesn't have to be with the toothbrush. I'm not saying it has to be spotless. Leave it in really decent shape. Get it professionally cleaned. Leave some good karma in the house. Nothing ruins the excitement of moving into a new home faster than walking into a pile of trash in the garage or dirty dishes in the sink or random junk just left behind in the closets. Buyers aren't expecting perfection, but they're expecting a livable space, not a disaster zone. Just do the right thing here, really important. And buyers, beware that your realtor, like I go and tell the realtor, this has to be more than broom swept clean. We're asking for it to be professionally cleaned. And they do that, sellers do that. So sellers, just leave a livable space and do the right thing, like I said. Just give it a little bit more effort. And like I said, it might be best just to get it professionally clean, all right? The buyer will appreciate it and your realtor will appreciate it. So buying and selling, it can be stressful and full of traps, but it doesn't have to be, all right? So make sure you're a good agent, you know little tricks here. Stay prepared, stay realistic. Don't let this process break you. And if you want to avoid making a huge mistake in your real estate journey, don't miss this video right here. Never say this to a real estate agent. Trust me, saying the wrong thing could cost you big time. You gotta listen to this one. Click right now to watch it.